Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, "Shut Up and Turn on the Gas?" Okay. This is a long story. This is really old event. And for the record, I am a decent enough human being to feel really bad about how this came out. After I was done feeling vindicated and amused, I felt extra bad because of those feelings, so I guess it somewhat balances. Back in the late 80s through the mid-90s, my dad grew watermelons every year. It's a good cash crop but intensive on the physical labor side of things, and you're working hardest when the weather is hottest. You have to work really hard to pick the melons when they are ready to pick, as healthy vines will bump out growth on the remaining melons fast in late June, so you can pick again in just a few days. So only a certain type of person is willing and able to really capitalize on the crop. My dad was just that certain type of person. He was transitioning all of his farming activity from row crops like corn and peanuts and cotton to pecans. He needed that summer cash crop of watermelons to stay afloat until the pecans were paying off. I worked for him at the time, and part of the successful transition from row crops to pecans hinged upon using buried drip irrigation for the pecans. For 6 years I buried drip irrigation for several months every year. We were able to water groves with $2,000 wells instead of the $200,000 wells needed with sprinklers. Big difference. Anyway, we irrigated the melons with drip irrigation too. Only it wasn't durable stuff used on the melons. It was thin, cheap stuff made to last a season and no more. The plastic film covering the beds was 1 mil thick and would photo-degrade from sunlight in a year. The drip tape itself did need to be picked up and disposed. So this one year my dad gets a bright idea to burn the film at the end of the season instead of letting it break down slowly. A local ag company has a towable burn rig you can rent. Now this thing is just the sort of rig no one in their right kind would insure. I'll describe it, because it was a real monster. Okay, start with a 1,000-gallon propane tank. The huge kind you see in some yards that only have to be filled every couple of years. Now, you put that mumbo jumbo on top of a homemade trailer made to be pulled behind a farm tractor. And you hook up a pump to the PTO on the tractor so that it can pump the propane, not just let it flow from expansive properties. 'Cause you need a lot of propane to flow for this kind of beast. The back of the homemade trailer has a support shaft mounted across it. And there are 2 long boom shafts on hinges that fold forward for transport but can be locked perpendicular like wings when deployed. They are 16 feet long each. The trailer is 8 feet across. So when the wings are deployed, this bad boy spans 40 feet. Every 4 feet on all 3 shafts there is a torch. These torches are angled down and backwards. The idea is that a flaming jet of propane would hit every scrap of plastic film and burn it away. We won't even get into the environmental aspects. So, this was August, all the melons were done, cleanup needed to happen. My dad rented this beast, had me hook it up to a tractor, and meet him in one of the fields. There were 2 controls up in the cab with the operator. Both toggle switches. One of them was to turn on the gas for pilot lights on the torches. The other was to go full on, burn everything in sight. But it was a windy day. Maybe 10 to 15 miles per hour average. I was not comfortable. I voiced my objections to burning on a windy day. And got shut down. Hard. Told to just do as I was told. Okay then. So I'm sitting up there in the cab following instructions. I get told to turn on the gas for the pilot light, so I do. And then I sit there for a good 5 to 10 minutes twiddling my thumbs because it's too damned windy to get burning stuff. It's too windy to get the torches to light. The breeze is so stiff it is dissipating the gas and blowing out the old man's lighter repeatedly. And I'm just sitting there, doing as instructed. After another 50 or 60 failed attempts, my dad, old man, boss, was reaching the end of his patience and yelled up at me to not just sit there. Turn on the full gas. Now, I was annoyed and didn't want to be out there, but this just seemed to be a bad idea. So I spoke up. Me, but that will, him, shut up. Do what I said. Me, but him, shut up. Either flip that switch or get down here and light it while I flip it. We need more gas to get it to light. Me, flips the switch, torch, ignites. Shoots a jet of flame directly onto the old man's sandaled feet, yes. That's right. He was wearing sandals. And he lit a wide open jet of propane that was aimed directly at those sandaled feet. I let out a loud bray of laughter just as I flipped the switch to off. The old man's head swiveled away from his feet to me in a trice, but despite my guffaw I had a sober morose expression plastered on. He couldn't wear shoes for a couple of weeks, while he didn't need dressings on his feet. They were pretty well done. We didn't burn any watermelon film that year. The next one is titled, The Tribulations of Commuting by Bike, A Tale of Not Paying Attention. This happened 5 years or so ago in the UK. On with our tale. The company I had been working at brought in new rules, processes and whatnot regarding business continuity, and as such we all had to switch to laptops that had to be taken home with us. I was one of 4 people who commuted almost exclusively via motorbike, except in the depths of winter. And herein lied the problem for us bikers. The rules they set up didn't include any provision for bikers, even the lycra louts. I was the first to speak to HR and the department organizing all this to ask about this. As all the rules said the laptop had to be kept in the stowage area of the vehicle, i.e. the boot or trunk for you Yanks, however bikes don't have this. Also part of the T&Cs of my insurance stated I cannot carry items over a certain size and or weight in a backpack while riding, also lithium batteries could not be carried this way full stop. I actually checked and 4 of the last 5 insurance policies I have state this. HR responded with we have to abide by the rules and as such we must have relevant storage fitted to our bikes, however the storage items themselves are company property and can't be used for personal things, also the company will pay for this to be done. Also if you need to add insurances for carrying work items you must obtain this and the company will reimburse you. If you don't do this and refuse to take your laptop home you will face disciplinary until you do. Here is where we bikers get clever. We all go to the same place in my city that works on bikes and all purchase the same kit for our bike, which is a frame for attaching the pannier boxes and top boxes, and purchase a full set of boxes for each bike. Then we also buy separately another full set of boxes. During this it turns out 3 out of 4 bikes will need the some rear panels cutting into to allow the frames to attach. Because of this we had the shop order new panels for the bikes as well. We all then approached HR and handed over the bills, approx £400 minus £600 per bike for the frame and fitting and another £500 for the boxes. We got cheaper boxes in the second order. My bill total was £1,080 including VAT. HR actually refused to pay anything as they said it was our choice to fit the stuff or face disciplinary for not taking the laptops home each day, at which point the most senior of us pulled out the email that said they would pay for the work. He argued the company was essentially blackmailing us and he wouldn't stand for it. However, HR stood firm. It took nearly 6 weeks of arguing, especially after we billed them for the replacement body panels. They were only small but we wanted as new parts if the frames were removed. But in the end, after a threat of involving solicitors, lawyers to you Yanks, the company backed down. However, they refused any future requests and exempted staff with only bikes of a main transport not including public from being disciplined for not taking laptops home. So in the end I got a pannier and top box frame attached to my bike and paid for by the company, and I bought a sweet set of panniers and boxes as well for when I left. The company paid out around £5,000 in total to us 4 bikers, however they never learnt and I still hear of them making dumb mistakes or oversights that end up costing them money, in one case over $1 million. Take care and stay safe all. The next one is titled, Sorry didn't mean to bother you, just trying to make your job easier. Background information: so my cousins own their own convenience store, so they meet a lot of foreigners who have an amazing life story. So, my uncle knows 3 languages: French, Portuguese, and Hindi. He is still learning English, so my cousin and I do some volunteer work helping him. Story: when I was out of school, before the pandemic, I would usually go home and get some housework done, but I got a phone call from my uncle that went like this. It was in Hindi, but I will translate it into English. Me: Hi uncle. How are you? Uncle, I'm fine, but I do have an issue that I need help with. Me, what is the issue? Maybe I can help. Uncle, well, I'm making a giant order coming in and the delivery driver only speaks English and I'm pretty busy with customers. Your cousin was going to come in but he had a family emergency, can you help me? Me, let me talk to my parents and see if they're okay with me driving over and I can be right there. My parents said it's fine since I was helping family and I have a lot of practice on the road. When I did get there I see that the delivery truck had beaten me to it. Since I have helped my uncle before I knew what to do. We had a specific spot for huge delivery trucks so they would have an easier time bring stuff in. Also, it's a back door so customers don't get interfered with their shopping. When we get delivers usually we get a nice man named Mark, not his real name. My uncle and I love Mark because he has such a bubbly personality and also knows how to speak Portuguese so the deliveries can be done without me being there. This time we got Karen. Before I can even open my mouth to tell her where to park she said, and I quote, "Karen, look, I'm not in the mood to talk to a kid that probably is lost looking for his mum crying that someone called him a loser. Unless it's something about the delivery being cancelled or the president has a meeting with me, don't talk to me." Cue the malicious compliance. I decided to not tell her that we had an open parking spot that would have made her job a lot more easier. She had to walk across the street for each delivery she made. Although the difference would be very small with she was carrying 1 or 2 boxes, but there was roughly 100. It took her about 2 minutes to deliver a single box, so it took about 2 hours to finish the job, but while if she had not been a Karen then each delivery would have taken about 30 seconds, which would have taken about 30 minutes. Bonus, it was 90 degrees outside so the walk felt even longer. Once she was done with all her delivery I decided to tell her about the parking spot open. She said, "Karen, why did you not tell me this sooner?" Me, well, the order was never cancelled and the president was nowhere to be seen, so you told me to not bother you. I never saw her again. The next one is titled, "My timesheets aren't accurate enough?" Alright then. Timesheets have become a battle at work in our relatively small but growing company. To wit, our timesheets serve two masters. On the one hand, they provide important information on where all of our efforts are going and who is being overworked. On the other, they form the basis of our billing to our clients. I'm a technical PM who occasionally jumps in to do admin work on a Salesforce database when our solution architects and BAs are too busy. I'm rusty, and I don't feel clients should have to pay for me having to remember how to do something or search something, do a write-up, and run it by an SA before implementing in our sandboxes. I suggest something similar to our admin trainees. Because they're learning, I tell them to bill half the time they worked on deliverables to our client and half to a training budget while they get their bearings, so the client isn't being billed for learning time. New management feels that as a result, our timesheets are inaccurate. Consequently, they now review my timesheets on a weekly basis despite the fact that I only do it to save clients money. Fair enough, I suppose. Except that a few clients have essentially signed separate work orders for major overhauls to the system with a budget associated with each. Easy if you're doing the actual work, as our BAs and SAs do. Problem is, our time tracking system has 0 tasks associated with overhead, and a lot of what I do is scrape the system to create documentation, internal and external, keep track of overall schedule, and keep as much unnecessary paperwork away from our SA and BA as possible. In other words, overhead. I have asked for tasks associated with overhead to be included and/or better guidance on what to do if I don't feel a client should be billed for work for one reason or another. A number of people have shared my concern. We have gotten nothing of the sort, and I continue to have timesheet reviews. The most guidance I got was, write detailed notes and we can figure it out afterwards. Well, okay then. Timesheets now get updated every hour. Clients with tons of tasks and subtasks and no overhead get a completely unique, ad hoc solution to how the time is notated. The notes section of each item provides a detailed explanation of why I entered the amount of time that I did for the particular task, including whether or not it was an arbitrary division. The notes are quite detailed. If it ever takes me at least 10 minutes to type up my explanations, I throw in a 15-minute log time for explaining how my time was supposed to work and why I billed my work where I did, which gets charged to HR tasks. I also give him a 15-minute charge every day for making and remaking coffee, and a generic 15-minute charge for bathroom breaks. Both clearly labeled as such. Having recently been told that level of detail was gratuitous and unnecessary, I simply informed them that the guidance I was given was to write detailed notes, and until I have a way of denoting overhead in a consistent fashion that does not arbitrarily hit fixed funds for deliverables the clients expect, I will do what I was told was best practice. Our reviews have gotten quite boring as I assure my supervisors that everything I have to say is on the timesheet, and I have nothing further to add. The next one is titled, "You Want Me to Sleep at the Office?" Sure thing, lady. This happened a year ago. I still am working at this company. My superiors, team lead, manager and department head are all fantastic bosses and they will fight for their subordinates when right. Most of my immediate colleagues are great too, and we often help each other out. So, I have very severe sleep apnea. After a sleep study was done, I was told that I stopped breathing 69 times an hour. As a result, I tend to need more sleep than most normal people. If the following day is not a work day, I will go to bed at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. and wake up the next day at 3 p.m. I have 7 different alarms, all of which I never snooze as I almost never hear them. Now, my bosses are aware and very understanding, and they do not mind me coming in late to work as I ultimately still get things done. Also, sometimes my work requires me to work at odd hours, in the 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. kinds of hours. We handle infrastructure. My usual work hours are 9:30 to 1900 versus my colleagues' usual 8:30 to 1800, as I had to work with clients and customers who have 9:30 to 1900 work times. On to the story. Our CEO was cracking down on punctuality issues. There were some people who were abusing this, so I can't blame him, and HR was going hard on everyone. This lady who was handling disciplinary issues, we'll call her Karen, knows that I'm typically late to work almost every day, and starts targeting me. My manager explains my situation to her and tells her that it was an exception granted to me. She remarks that it is entirely unacceptable and that no employee should be given special privileges, and called for me to a joint meeting between her, me, my team lead and manager. After insinuations that I'm just lazy and lying about my situation with sleep apnea, or that I snooze my alarms and sleep late, she states that if I am late one more time, I will receive a warning letter, with the unspoken threat that I will lose my bonus for the year that was coming in 2 months as it is considered disciplinary action. She then sarcastically adds, "If you can't get up in the morning, sleep in the office." I was upset for a couple of seconds, but this subreddit has taught me better. A plan began to form. Malicious compliance it is. Once work ends, I head home, as usual, have dinner, relax and stuff. However, this time I head back to the office, reaching at 10:30 p.m. or so, with all of my alarms. As per office safety procedure, if there's an employee in the office, the lights need to be on, at least in the employee's immediate area. On the lights go. I set them up to start ringing from 6:30 a.m. as usual, and to ring every 5 minutes. I should also mention that my desk is right smack in the middle of the office, just outside HR's closed area. Also, any person with sleep apnea knows, snoring is an immense issue. My snoring is so loud that it sounded like Thor was upset. I went to sleep in my chair. Morning comes, people start coming in. It is 8:30 a.m., my 7 alarms ringing, my snoring bringing the thunder. Did I mention that I'm seated right outside HR and in the middle of the office? Karen, unable to take the noise, tries to get my colleagues to wake me up. They simply shrugged and said it wasn't part of their job scope or contract. My team lead and manager both refuse to wake me up, as he starts work at 9:30 a.m. Karen tries to wake me up, but a choking, breathing incident happens and it sounded like I was severely ill. It scared her to tears. I ended up waking on my own at 10:30 a.m. Karen then complains to my department head, which I clarified that this was requested by Karen, to which both my team lead and manager corroborates. My department head deems that I didn't break any rules, and in fact did do what she had said to, and thus had no grounds for disciplinary action. He then gives me 2 days paid off to rest as I was in no condition to handle clients. I found out later that the rest of HR was never agreeable putting me on the late list in the first place, but could not intervene as they were not in charge of disciplinary issues. No one has really hounded me about punctuality again, outside of the occasional, "Hey, try to be on time next time." Just to assure everyone, I do try my best to. The next one is titled, "So You Don't Want Me to Throw Out Spoiled Milk?" Okay. I was in the US Navy on a destroyer back when it was wooden ships and iron men. I got assigned to the mess decks to do setup and clean up. Well, the cook was terrible in every way, including ordering supplies. On one of the cruises he ordered twice too much reconstituted milk, which came in 5-gallon cartons. Now the milk wasn't very good to start with, so the crew wasn't drinking much and the milk started to spoil. We would put it in the dispenser, sample it, and if it was spoiled, throw it out. The problem was there was a lot of milk, and it got to the point if you just got a whiff of spoiled milk it would turn your stomach. We went to the cook, told him all the milk needed to be thrown out, but he refused. Here's where the malicious compliance comes in. None of us wanted to smell any more spoiled milk, so what we did was put the milk carton in the dispenser and placed a trash can nearby. Then we would stand back to spy. If anyone took a glass and immediately threw it in the trash, we would throw that carton out and load up another one. It took a month to get rid of all the bad milk. The last one is titled, "High Speed?" Okay. This is a small malicious compliance involving my father and I. My father and I were baking bread. We have a nice mixer with a dough hook. We were mixing in flour and the directions said high speed. My father added in some flour and I started up the mixer. I put it at a lower speed to avoid flour going everywhere. He then said, "High speed," in a somewhat forceful tone. The next time he goes to add flour, I slow the mixer down, he adds the flour and I put it on high speed. It went everywhere. He got angry, but we cleaned the flour up and finished the bread. Thanks for listening.